the water bill, we learn more later in the chapter after a hard cut. Now it turns out Bowman solved this difficult case by reminding herself that the way to the truth is not to see what's there, but to check what's missing, looking for what should be there, but for some reason isn't. This can also link back to people too, subtle changes in their mannerisms or behavior that could cause them to behave differently. As for Bowman, she's suspicious of absolutely everyone, and this explains why she's so thorough in her job. Back in the present, Sunga heads out and confronts Yong-ha, who's taken into hospital to get treatment. He's rattled as she looks through the ward, but when he heads back home, he finds out that Sunga has thrown his bag away and all evidence is gone. Yong-ha promises to keep his mouth shut about everything, but wants her to leave. Sunga refuses to comply and taunts him, deciding she just wants to be friends, despite slamming into his car. She plays with him and questions his loyalty to the motel, and unfortunately, this now turns into a turf war as the pair begin to fight one another. Interestingly, Sunga's car has changed from a red Jeep to a blue sports car. Not sure what significance this has, but it's a nice touch all the same. As for Sunga, she's surprised when a family show up at the vacation rental, ready to move in. Police arrive too, questioning what she's doing there, and Sunga finds herself in hot water. She doesn't have a rental form or any proof of her booking, as she paid for everything with cash, and Yong-ha, as we know, doesn't have a website either. When the laundry guy shows the next day, Sunga is pissed, especially as he doesn't recognize her and refuses to converse. This is, of course, all part of Yong-ha's plan to try and drive her out. Yong-chae is convinced that this will work, with Sunga heading back home eventually. Yong-ha, though, isn't so sure, but decides to continue playing up the idea of extra bookings. While Sunga works on her artwork, more guests arrive at the motel. Yong-ha sets up Sunga as the uni auntie, and it sends her over the edge. She contemplates whether to phone the police and get the place shut down. Instead, she puts on noise-canceling headphones to drown out the noise. In the morning, the kids wake her up by smashing the window. Yong-ha eventually rings and decides there's going to be lots of guests and she'll need to pick up the slack now, given the cleaner won't show to help. Sunga threatens to kill his daughter, but it doesn't deter him. He switches off his phone and decides to continue camping in the woods. Gi-ho shows at the hospital and throws away flowers from an old woman, while Bo-min deliberates over this ghostwriter. Apparently, only one unidentified individual was captured on CCTV, but that was a month ago, and they don't have enough evidence to incriminate him. There's nothing else here, and it does look like a suicide. Bowman is not convinced, though, and digs deeper. Now, one person at the station whom he didn't bank on was Officer Kim Seon-tae. He puts on aftershave before leaving, and we've already seen throughout the episode that he has an infatuation with Sunga. When Yong-ha arrives, it turns out that he's part of the group staying, and Seon-tae reprimands him for treating Sunga poorly. He also warns that he could get in trouble for this. Now, all of this stems from ownership of the motel, of course, and Yong-ha is as good at playing this game as Sunga is. She doesn't really like Seon-tae, and even suggests to Yong-ha that night that they go halves and both stay here. Yong-ha is incredulous and calls her a bitch. Sunga snaps and brings up how he's living with a murderer. He chokes her out, revealing that he won't do anything with her, and after letting go, walks away. Seon-tae sees Yong-ha leave her room and suspects the worst. He also sees her on the edge of her bed holding her throat. Sunga decides to sleep with Seon-tae to stop him going after Yong-ha, but she's clearly just doing this as a distraction rather than actually feeling anything for him. Yong-ha eventually heads back home and, irate, antagonizes Seon-tae so he gets arrested. At the station, he ends up talking to Bowman. She remembers him from showing at the station that night with the nosebleed and his pent-up aggression. She knows there's something going on, and it leads to Yong-ha deciding he's going to file a report. According to him, there's nothing anymore. But Bowman offers a chance for him to talk about his plight. Yong-ha refuses, but on his way out, offers a full refund for Officer Kim and also the promise that he doesn't show up at the rental again. Seon-tae doesn't let it go, though, and out in the woods, he tries ringing Sergeant Choi while confronted by Sunga in her car. She chases him off the property, but we then hard cut to Sunga, listed as that crazy woman in Yong-ha's contact list, ringing while spattered in mud in the middle of a cornfield. Yong-ha agrees to sell her the motel, but wants a couple of days to get everything sorted. At the motel, Bowman shows up and finds Sung-ah sitting outside on the car, which is spattered with mud. She's also smoking too, and harking back to that earlier statement in the past, Bowman is well and truly it, as she intends to find and tag the murderer. Episode 6 of The Frog starts with Gi-ho in the past at the motel. It turns out he was actually in the motel at the time that Hyang-chol arrived with the dead body of the woman. Hyang-chol told him to disappear and act like a ghost, and he does just this. Gi-ho heads out into the rain after being given Hyang-chol's hat and races to his mom's place. He's haunted by what he's seen, and he keeps the hat hidden under his bed. Gi-ho has a separate pet project, though, and after the incident involving Hyang-chol, he becomes obsessed with the guy. He has a rifle and practices his shooting over at Yongdo Shopping Center, and we also learn that the pair have a pretty good bond and are bound by a similar purpose, to make Hyang-chol pay. Gi-ho remains fixated on the past, and he's still living in his aunt's rundown house, even after all this time. When he shows up after a visit to the hospital, he finds Young-ha there. He knocks the guy down and points a gun at him, but Young-ha promises to explain everything. We then cut to Young-ha himself, waking up in hospital. He worries that his rental will become like Lakeview, given the current murder that may have taken place with Si-hyun. Before making his decision, he decides to visit Lakeview himself and find out whether this will be worth it or not, specifically selling the place to Sung-ah and wiping his hands of all responsibility. Bowman struggles to get through to Young-ha, given he's not picking up his phone, while Sung-ah decides to race away in her muddied sports car. Bowman shows up and begins looking around. As for Young-ha, he shows at the same realtor that Sang-jun did all those years back, and he points out that he's not selling up, as the past and present collide. Young-ha visits Sang-jun, who's currently in a retirement home and clearly losing his mind. He believes he's still at the motel and clearing the place up. Young-ha helps him out, which in turn allows the guy to open up about his dilemma. He wishes Gi-ho would call, but he's staying at his aunt's right now. He can't find her number, but does bring up the incident involving Hyang-chol. Sang-jun tells him not to trust anyone, and that he needs to be careful. He needs to protect his daughter and even runs his mouth about getting Hyang-chol killed, with a hint that it could well be Gi-ho. It soon becomes clear that Young-ha has been watching Gi-ho for a while, and this catches us up to the moments where he's captured and tied up at his place. Gi-ho believes that he's part of the police, given the missed calls on his phone. However, before Gi-ho can do anything, he gets distracted when he receives a call from his uncle, telling him to make his mark. Now, that earlier instance of him making a spray-painted mark on the window and racing to the hospital makes sense. He's going to shoot Hyang-chol in cold blood when he arrives in the hospital to visit his dying mom. With Young-ha still tied up, he works to get himself free, unaware of what's about to go down. It turns out this old woman is actually Hyang-chol's mom, and he shows to see her on her deathbed. She's breathing heavy, and Hyang-chol immediately susses something is going on. He drops to the ground just as Gi-ho fires, and misses. Hyang-chol seizes his opportunity as the cops race to grab the shooter, and after killing one of the men in the hospital ward, Jong-do jumps on him, and in the middle of this skirmish, Gi-ho arrives with his rifle and shoots Hyang-chol after saying he's a ghost. The light bulbs go on as Hyang-chol notices who he is. After doing his work, he jumps out the window and crashes down to the ground. After escaping, he heads home to find Young-ha there, holding a gun up to him. It's an airsoft pistol, though, and not a real gun. He tells Young-ha that everything is over now, refusing to turn himself in. He eventually kicks Young-ha out and tells him to go. Realizing that letting him go makes no sense, Young-ha shows up just in time and manages to stop Gi-ho from killing himself. He takes the rifle and questions why he wants to kill himself. Gi-ho is a troubled young man. After all the PTSD involving Hyang-chol and seeing his mother commit suicide too, Gi-ho feels alone, but he's not. Young-ha makes the call and connects to Sang-jun. He puts him on speakerphone and tells him to listen to his auntie. He apologizes and promises that he's going to help once everything is sorted out. Until then, he needs Gi-ho to stay strong. The earlier scene in the show now makes sense in context, with Gi-ho arriving to see Hyang-chol and the significance of the hat, too, that he's been wearing. Hyang-chol gave the ghostwriter's address, but he was already dead when he showed up. Gi-ho held up in the motel and read everything. He felt weird after reading the memoir, but it wasn't anger. Hyangchal was at peace, but Giho hadn't moved on at all, still lost in that same moment. Together with Yong-ha, they burn the letters and try to use this as a moment to move on from everything. Yong-ha decides to get rid of any incriminating evidence and stand up for Giho, giving him an alibi. According to him, they have empty cans in the sink, and the story will be that he showed up to buy the motel off him, and they ended up drinking all night together. This way, Giho can avoid jail time. Well, apart from the cameras in the hospital, surely that would have snapped him coming in with the gun. Anyway, as the episode comes to a close, Yong-ha snatches up the gun and decides to leave after a call from Sunga. Sitting on the hood of her car, she demands he show back up again, and has blood all over her neck too. Quite what this all means is anyone's guess, but it certainly doesn't look good.
아저씨!
Episode 7 of The Frog starts with Yong-ha in the hospital breaking down, claiming it's all his fault that everything has taken place. We then cut to Sunga, who notices the mud on the front of her car as she pulls into the art gallery parking lot. In the midst of this, a guy called Jae-sik shows up in her car and throws Sunga off guard. It turns out he's Sunga's estranged partner, and he's been in prison and has just got out. Sunga is frosty with him, and for good reason too. He chases her through the parking lot and the pair end up fighting. Jae-sik lashes out at her and claims that she took her anger out on Si-hyun, blaming her for their kid being murdered. He's convinced that she killed him. It's here that we learn that Si-hyun's birth mother walked out when her son was born, and Sunga has been adopting that role ever since. She continues to feign ignorance, claiming she has no idea what happened to Si-hyun. However, she soon rings the alarm and throws a fire extinguisher through a car, racing off and locking herself in the office. In the midst of this, she does antagonize him and admits she killed Si-hyun. Jae-sik eventually hits her, and as she lies on the ground passed out, a whole bunch of witnesses see this commotion. Jae-sik runs away, while Sunga heads back to the gallery, despite her busted lip. Sunga makes quite the elaborate scene as she winds up driving right into the middle of the exhibit in a white van. She doesn't hang about, though, as she approaches Dr. Yu and demands that he keep Jae-sik somewhere for a few days for her. She then leaves the gallery and heads home. Sunga erratically throws her bloodied shirt up on the lights, which Gyeongnam notices when he checks back on the CCTV footage. Sunga, though, doesn't care, and while she hangs around the rental motel, causing havoc for everyone, Yong-chae starts to get annoyed by her presence. Yong-chae even offers to pay her off, but she's having none of it. Given Yong-ha has already agreed to pay up, Yong-chae doesn't believe her and antagonizes the woman. The pair end up butting heads, eventually leading to Sunga stabbing him in the back before beating him to a pulp with his crutches. On a mad one, Sunga heads to the supermarket and starts buying up bleach, barbecue charcoal, and other items. Who should be there shopping? Yep, it's Bo-min. This woman is literally everywhere. She watches as Sunga piles up items on her trolley and even sees the bleach for herself. We then cut to her out in the fields. Bo-min follows her, just as Gyeongnam rings and claims that he has something to report. While she leaves, Wiseon receives a message that her father is not doing too well and is hurt. Unbeknownst to her, Yong-chae is tied up and bloodied in the basement, tied to a chair. Given he's gagged as well, he can't reply, so this is all Sunga's doing. Sunga is back, though, and she invites Wiseon inside for a drink. Wiseon can't get through to Yong-ha, so Sunga decides to spin her web of deceit. She claims that she and Yong-ha are accomplices and killed Si-hyun. She also tells her that Yong-ha cleaned up the mess, but of course, Wiseon is not stupid. Wiseon heads outside and manages to blindside Sunga, knocking her down before saving Yong-chae from his predicament. Unfortunately, Sunga returns with a vengeance, and the pair end up fighting around the basement, right amidst all the vinyl. Unfortunately, this ends with Sunga choking out Wiseon and presumably killing her. We then cut to Sunga with a red suitcase, with the implication being that she's stuffed inside. This then catches us up to the moments at the end of the previous episode. Sunga is covered in blood because of both Yong-chae and Wiseon, and she goads Yong-ha into returning. Well, he does just that, armed with his rifle and determined to get his revenge. Yong-ha catches up to her down by the pool, and a tense standoff ensues. Young-ha explains he really was going to sell the rental to her until she went insane and off the rails. As for Sung-ah, she retorts that she does her best work in the motel, and that's partly why she wants to buy this place. She offers him a chance to head down and save his friend, and gives a window of 30 minutes to do just that. Young-ha finds Yang-chae bloodied and in a rough way, so he drives him up to the hospital. While he's being patched up, Gyeong-nam, the laundry guy who noticed Sung-ah on the CCTV footage earlier in the episode, confronts Young-ha outside, wanting answers. He doesn't give them, though, pushing the guy over and silently getting back in his car and racing back. As for Sunga, she notices Young-ha return, and he nearly smashes into her car. He's on the warpath and armed with an axe. He goes all, "Here's Young-ha," and breaks in. Sunga offers him the chance to live at the motel safe and sound as, after her successful exhibit, despite driving through the middle of it, she's got tickets to leave the country. Sunga promises that he'll find Uiseon safe and sound, apparently, and she'll never come back. However, if he does mess up, he'll not only see Uiseon die, but she'll make his life a living hell. All of this rests on whether he keeps his mouth shut about the attacks on both Yang-chae and Sihyun. After what Young-ha has seen and the damage that keeping quiet can do, he receives a call from Captain Bowman. He thinks about it, but then ignores the call. If he can make Uiseon and Yang-chae keep quiet and forget all of this, she'll slip out like nothing. However, she also needs his help in burying something in the vegetable garden. He agrees, but wants to see Uiseon first. Sunga reluctantly agrees and they head down to the dock together. However, when they get there, the red suitcase is right on the edge of the dock, but it's completely empty. Young-ha has set her up as Bowman arrives with the police. She's surrounded as it becomes clear that Young-nam was actually the one who called this in, with the CCTV footage incriminating Sung-ah. Bowman, with the bit between her teeth, spoke to Young-ha outside the motel before he arrived to confront Sung-ah. He reveals everything about the kidnapping and how they set up Sung-ah to try and buy some time to find the car, and saving Uiseon, who, as we find out, isn't dead, but was stuffed into this suitcase. After saving Uiseon, Sung-ah is taken away in handcuffs and arrested for assault and kidnapping. As for Young-ha, he charges into the hospital, determined to make sure Uiseon is okay. She has bleeding from the abdomen, and she may need to abort her child. Yep, it turns out she was actually pregnant when all of this happened, and Uiseon is in a rough way. At the hospital, Young-ha blames himself for what happened and keeping quiet all this time. Bowman, though, is there for him and tells Young-ha that he's the victim and he did the best he could. As Young-ha breaks down crying, it appears this nightmare is finally over. Or it would be if there wasn't another episode to follow. Young-ha heads outside and decides to open up to Bowman, pointing out that he believes Sung-ah has murdered someone and was going to bury Sihyun at the motel. We then see someone show up and grab the rifle from the motel basement. But who could that be? Episode 8 of The Frog starts with Bowman in her car, reflecting over Young-ha's words last episode. He's convinced that Sung-ah has murdered Sihyun, and it's something that has been hanging heavy over this show for the duration of the runtime. Does Bowman get to pursue her hunch? Sung-ah is initially uncooperative, as she knows that she'll get out of this once her lawyer shows up, but only if she keeps quiet. Bowman knows there's the Sihyun situation to sort out, and when she mentions the cornfield, Sung-ah's face drops. Just a little. It's enough for Bowman to decide to launch a search party to scour the area. Bowman confronts the chief about this, who's none too happy that she's stepping out of line. She calls him a chicken, calling the chief's bluff and even showing the evidence she's collected, which happens to be the gear she bought at the supermarket. Of course, all of this laid out on the table does hint toward there's something else happening, and he agrees. In fact, Bowman is so convinced that there's something extra, she's willing to hand in her badge and gun if she gets it wrong. However, there's less risk in doing this, Bowman explains, as Sung-ah is going to get out regardless under the pretense of a false arrest. What happens with the search party? Sung-ah leaves the station after being detained for a few hours, given her lawyers and ties with Dr. Yu, whom we now learn is actually his daughter. She drives away in her sports car and even suggests they sue Bowman for keeping her detained for 2 hours. When Young-ha finds out, he's livid and phones Bowman, lashing out. However, she promises that they're going to find what she's hiding no matter what. Young-ha refuses to wait any longer, though, and he hangs up on her. It couldn't have happened any sooner, as the police team arrive and start combing through the cornfield. Sunga immediately heads to the laundrette and burns all the clothes there, starting a big fire. As she watches the flames, Choi notices something out in the cornfield. It's not Sai-hyun, but actually Seon-tai's body that's been hacked up. She's just left it there in the open, without burying it or anything. He even has his phone with him too. Is there enough evidence to put Sunga behind bars? Now Yong Chai is part of this search, and he soon notices tons of missed calls on his phone. It's here that the police also catch wind of what's happening with the fire and hurry back to check it out. It's not Young-ha who arrives at the motel first, though, but actually Jae-sik. He was the one who picked up the rifle from the basement, and he holds it up to Sunga now. She tries to ring her father, but is unsuccessful. Why? Well, he's got into her laptop and sees pictures of her posing in the bloodstained shower as part of her art. It's now clear that she definitely killed Si-hyun, and she even admits as much to Jae-sik when the call ends in misery. Before he can pull the trigger, Young-ha arrives. Sunga taunts Jae-sik, telling him he needs to kill Young-ha given he's an accomplice, and only then will she reveal where Si-hyun is being kept. Young-ha apologizes for his part to playing all this, given he never went to the police, despite knowing that a murder took place. Does Sunga die? Jae-sik shoots Sunga in the leg, and as she antagonizes him, Bowman also arrives. Absolute chaos ensues as Sunga runs away after shooting Bowman in the shoulder. The next scene, we see the swimming pool stained red and a dead body in a white sheet taken away. Now it turns out that Jae-sik shot Sunga in the back when she was running away. He eventually shot her in the head, and she bled out, staining the pool red. Young-ha gets into the water and watches in shock, partly because he knows now that any hope of finding Si-hyun's body has died with him. With Sunga gone, Uiseon wakes up in hospital and sheds a tear. As for Bowman, she feels empty without her comrade, who was just as competent as she was, but got a little too invested and paid the price for it. What happens with the vacation rental? Yong-chae is released from hospital, though, and he heads back to the motel to find Young-ha down in the basement trying to fix the place up. They have a problem with frozen pipes, and instead of doing it all themselves, Young-ha decides to call a contractor out. This is, of course, a nice contrast to Sang-jun, who did all of this himself. Reluctantly realizing that the case will remain unsolved, Bowman heads out to visit Giho. She's recognized that the gun used to kill Sunga is not unlike that which killed Hyang Cheol, linking the two cases together. She knows as much, but for once, she's not going to pursue it, given it's outside her jurisdiction, and she's made peace with the fact that in this instance, there are no answers, just dead ends. As for Jae-sik, while he's behind bars, again, Dr. Yu sends his lawyer to help him. Presumably, he's going to be let go. How does the frog end? The show ends with us focusing on Young-ha, who has the whole family over to celebrate their final meal together. It would appear that Young-ha is going to sell up after all. And interestingly, Hyang Cheol's hat is hanging up on the wall. Uiseon didn't lose her baby after all, and she's even given birth too, and things seem to be on the up. Young-ha replies to a message he receives about a rental request, but he tells them he's not going into business anymore. When they ring, it turns out it's not a customer after all, it's actually Giho. He wants to see the place. As the show ends, Young-ha sits at his desk and notices the toy dog that Si-hyun had in the past. He reflects on his words about a tree falling, realizing that his silence for an entire year essentially helped Sunga get away with murder. Thanks for joining us on Drama Box Office. As always, we love sharing these epic tales with you, and it's been a pleasure diving into this story together. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all our latest recaps, and drop us a comment with your thoughts on this part. What are your theories, favorite moments, or anything you're looking forward to in the next episode? We can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, stay tuned and keep watching.